Hello, thanks for joining us today. We have a great webinar planned for you all about streamlining purchase requests in Microsoft 365 and Teams. Now, there are a lot of interesting components to this. You can save on ERP licensing costs, improve user adoption, a lot of interesting moving parts here. So, without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. I'm going to hand things off to my colleague Ryan here.
My name is Ryan. I guess you could call us like our solutions engineer here at Crow Canyon. I'm going to walk us through purchase requests for Office 365, Teams, SharePoint. So we're going to keep things pretty simple and straightforward today. I want to make sure that we pack as much as we can into a pretty tight window. I want to be respectful of your guys' time. But before we jump into the demo, I just want to talk a little bit about the structure of the tool set. So the base level of the application, like the underlying data storage, are SharePoint lists, SharePoint libraries if we're using doc libraries for anything related to purchasing. And then on top of SharePoint, we've built this tool set proprietary to Crow Canyon called NITRO Studio. So forms, workflows, reports, kind of anything that you see here in this dashboard that's above and beyond how standard SharePoint looks is most likely a NITRO Studio web part enhancing SharePoint. So all the data will live inside of your tenancy, and then the permission structure of the application will rely on SharePoint permission structure. Whoever has full control or full access to the site will have access to NITRO Studio, the backend administration, NITRO Studio, the backend administration, and then we also have some segmented or two segmented groups, one for maybe request workers and then one for end users. Okay, so that's the housekeeping. Now the application itself is a wireframe. I would say template. I think template's a better word than application regarding this this particular offering from Crow Canyon, mainly because everyone's purchasing process is a little different, either a little or a lot different, honestly. In some 70 to 80, 90 times I've done this, it's just different. So what we've done is we've created a structure, put the wireframe in place, and then it's going to be on you and your team to fill in the blanks. So first one is, first fill in the blank is the initial request from the end user. So we have a SharePoint portal where they can come in and submit requests, view their pending requests, and then see all the ones that they've made. But I will say people have started to shift away from the SharePoint portal and more towards this Teams app. So what this is it's the same site, but as a template, as a Teams add-on. First question I get here is, can I change the branding? Absolutely. You can call it whatever you want. Change the logo, but the functionality is the same. I want my end users from Teams to be able to submit a new purchase request. The form pops up, and they're able to fill out the request. Now, what I have in here is dummy demo data to show you what the approval process can look like for routing. This is step one, or would be step one, for the fill in the blanks, right? So maybe like in my internal demo process, we're basing the approvals off of the criticality, the priority, the type of purchase, the department of purchase, right? Maybe we're crawling Active Directory to find the manager of that particular department. Maybe who's submitting it, and then finally the items being purchased, the accounting code being purchased, or maybe just the total cost. Right? So all of these are on this form, these parent form, or these two forms, to show you how approvals can be handled, can be routed. We have an attachments section here at the bottom for quotes, if you need people to capture quotes. And then again, all of these columns, these are SharePoint columns, all of these columns can be factored into the approval process, right? which we'll talk about in more detail here in a sec. Finishing the form. As an end user, we do give them the ability to save this form and come back. Maybe they want to start it, they're waiting on quotes, they just want to get a head start on some things, they can save, but when the workflow kicks off is when they hit this submit for approval button. This is called a custom action. It's a manually invoked workflow in the NITRO Studio terminology. And the stripped down version, what I like to say, it's the warm and fuzzies. It's the green check boxes to let them know that, hey, their process has been run and it went submitted for approval, right? So now what this is doing, what this workflow is doing, right, submitted for approval, is it's taking those columns I specified on the form and it's querying a list? Yeah, querying a list in the back end, in the administration, called approval levels. And just like I mentioned on the form, we're looking at, you know, the amount, the type of purchase, the department of purchase, right? And then we're going to see who that approver should be. This is very simple. We create a level, we add a name. Now there are additional options here. This is the easiest to show in the demo, right? You see a level, you see a type, you see a name. The approval gets created in this person's name. But again, if we need to scroll Active Directory, honestly, the easiest way is that if people just put the name on the form, right? That's a possibility too. You want to have, hey, who should be the approver on the form? I've had those questions in the past as well. All our options, right? Like let's say purchase agent is the approver. I want Krista to approve, right? However we get to the correct approver, we can, and however many number of approvers we need, we can, right? So there are options to scale here as well. So that's what that workflow is doing. That's what the warm and fuzzies are. It's saying, okay, I found the right person. I've created the approval task for said person, and they've been notified. So what happens here is now it pops up in the dashboard. So it's kind of a two-pronged approach, not two-pronged approach, but it shows up in two different dashboards. The end user, to let them know that, you know, it's pending approval, and the back-end staff to see that a new purchase request has been created, right? And this is like a holistic overview of what's going on with all purchases open, all pending approval. So at any point in time, the purchasing team can drill down into one of these requests and see the status. Here's our cover sheet. Again, if you're thinking in your head, Ryan, can I change my columns? Absolutely, right? This is what we're going to use for approval. And then here are our approvals. So you can see in this case, we've had 2 approvals for this purchase. And these are tasks. These are sub-tasks related to the purchase request. So I've been working in SharePoint now for 15-ish years. I like to hit the buttons. I like to update tasks. It's just the way that I work. I enjoy it. I like to hit, this is approved, right? Most people don't function this way. I will say 99% of the time, the way that people are approving the approval tasks is through email. So what we do, oh, hey, look, it popped up already. So what we do is we send an email with all the information from the purchase request form, right? So my demo data, your items, whatever you need. We throw it in the body of the email. We give the requester a link to the item, to the purchase rec, to the approval task. But again, they can also make the decision to approve from here. The email template, also very configurable, right? So if I click back real quick, this is just a combination of rich text and items or columns from the form. So anything we want to put in here, anything we capture on the form can be added to the email template. Any rich text can be updated or changed. And then, like I said, they just have to hit one of the buttons and then they enter their comments. right? This is approved. And then that's it. They work their way through their approval process, however many levels of approvals they need. Once level 1 is approved, it goes to level 2, so on and so forth. There are also, one side note, there are options to have a grouped approval as well. Hey, I want to send this approval out to 5 people, and if 1 says yes, it's approved. If 1 says no, it's denied. If 3 out of 5 approve, it's approved, right? So on and so forth. So again, this is the easiest way to demo it, the linear approval process, but there are options to make it more complex as required. Yeah, until it trickles its way to, your approval completion. And then here's where we kind of hit a hinge point with our application, with our template. Tricked myself. We have some folks that stop right here and connect to a back-end ERP system. So using our NITRO tool set and our workflow tool, we have the ability to invoke a web service. We've done it for SAP, we've done it for Dynamics, we've done it for NetSuite, Profit 21, there's been a bunch. So basically, we're using SharePoint as the front end. It's the license saver for those ERP systems. The end users have access to 365. They come in, submit the request, it's approved, and then all of that information is parsed from the SharePoint and pushed into the ERP system and pushed back or pushed back, right? So the purchase request can really just be a front end to a back end ERP system. If you're like, hey, I'm doing it manually and I do want to have the ability to at least track the order, we do have that option as well. Let's look at one of these that are all approved. Take that one that I just approved. So you can create a purchase order in this case. What this does is it gives you a new set of functionality related to the form, right? So it's been submitted, it's been approved. And then now what we're doing is we're 2 main functions. We're tracking the status while this is loading. Let me shift over. We're tracking the status of the purchase order and the receivable of the items, right? So it pushes us to another dashboard, right? Open, to be reconciled, to be ordered. And then, like I said, it's essentially, here's our one we just approved. It is essentially updating the status. And I believe I have some, like I said, some dummy demo data in here. Is it on order, shipped from vendor, whatever it may be, right? So we can track the overall status. And then we can also update the individual line items. Hey, I got, 5 of these laptops from Amazon on one order, and I'm still waiting on another 5. It's a possibility as well. Until we get to the endpoint of this PO has been received or this purchase order has been fulfilled. And I will say the other thing, the other feature that people like about this aspect of the template is this print feature. So at any point in time, in the workflow, you can create a PDF. And the PDF is very similar to the email template. It's creating a physical PO, in this case, a little different, but the concept is the same. It's rich text, as well as any information that we're capturing in the purchase order. The line items, maybe ship to information, signatures if needed, and then, like we've created a header here. This can be emailed or printed, but it's a combination of rich text plus information captured in the form itself. Yeah, I mean that is the tool in a nutshell. It's very straightforward. It's very easy to configure. It can be very easy to configure. The flip side is that if you have a complex purchasing process, you do have that NITRO underlying web parts to make it specific to yours. I've had folks spin one up in like 5 hours. I've had some folks spend like 400 hours. So it really is just dependent upon what your purchasing process looks like. But like I said, the wireframe is there. And I think the impressive part about the wireframe is that it's handled the very simplest to the most complex. Last thing I touch on before I let y'all go is just the reporting. The easiest way to say it, I mean, you've seen some reports already, is that whatever information we capture in the forms we can report on. So maybe you want to see a purchase rec by department or by month or by status, right? You have the ability to spit out some reports, graphical interfaces, and you can embed those in pages as dashboards. And then at any point in time, you can also search as well. I use the search feature pretty heavily in a lot of my a lot of my internal processes. So like maybe I want to search everything by me. I can pull them up. And then if I want to extract the physical data, I can pull Excel or a PDF template as well from here. And again, you know, not to belabor the point, but the reporting is also very configurable. Right? We can make any changes, and it comes back down to that form. All right, so if we bring it full circle now, before I let y'all go, is that whatever we capture on the form, right, we use for the approvals, we can use for the reports, we can use for the statuses, right? So it really is, hey, you tell us what the content is, we're basing a purchase request off of, and we map the tool to match those requirements. Alrighty, well, that's the show and tell portion. Now, if you're interested in learning more, I would suggest a one-on-one call, probably with me. We'll talk about how, you know, the application can be mapped to your particular requirements, go through some scope exercises, dig into NITRO Studio to discuss, you know, maybe those API connectors or form configuration in more detail. I'm happy to have those conversations, and then if needed, the development team can always be pulled in. Krista is going to send the recording post call here, follow up. So if anything comes up, just give me a shout, give Krista a shout. We'll make sure to get those questions answered promptly. Krista, anything I forgot?
I think you covered it. Appreciate your time, Ryan, and walking us through this today. And for an email, if you need to get in touch, you can shoot us an email at hello@crowcanyon.com or sales@crowcanyon.com.
Perfect. Thanks, Krista. Y'all have a nice day.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, everyone.